Access to clean water, it's something so fundamental to well-being, to really everything. Yet we often take it for granted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when we think of desalination, we picture these massive plants on the coast. But so much of the world, those landlocked communities, they depend on groundwater.
Right, exactly. Groundwater.
And that groundwater, well, with climate change, it's becoming increasingly salty.
Absolutely. A huge challenge. And when we look at potential solutions, renewable power desalination in these areas,
It seems like the perfect answer.
you'd think so, right? But often it stumbles over the need for really complicated, expensive battery storage.
It makes you wonder, is there a better way to get clean water to the people who need it most?
That is the core question, isn't it? You've really hit the nail on the head about the limitations of our current methods.
Mm.
Those big coastal desalination plants, they work great on a large scale,
Yeah.
but they're not the answer for these remote resource-limited communities.
No, not at all.
And you're right, those big battery systems for solar desalination, they had a whole other layer of cost and logistics, really makes widespread adoption a real challenge.
That's exactly what we're diving deep into today. We've got some fascinating material, an article from MIT News, and a research paper from Nature Water. Both of them highlight a potentially game-changing innovation.
Oh, this is exciting stuff.
It's a solar-powered desalination system developed by MIT engineers. And the incredible thing is that it runs on little to no extra batteries for energy storage.
Yeah, that's the real breakthrough here. Shifting away from trying to make solar power constant and instead designing a system that works with the sun's natural ups and downs.
It's like instead of forcing the sun to fit the technology is adapting to the sun.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And that's the core of this research, this ability to work directly with variable solar power and sidestep that whole energy storage bottleneck.
So let's break this down. First, why has traditional solar desalination struggled with this variable power issue?
Okay, so the problem lies in the way conventional desalination tech works. And the big player here is reverse osmosis.
Reverse osmosis, that's the standard method, right?
It is, and it's effective, but it needs a super steady power supply to push that salty water through the membranes and get rid of the salts.
Okay, so it's power hungry.
Exactly. And solar power, as we know, it fluctuates. Clouds, sunrise, sunset. It's not a smooth ride.
So you either get unreliable desalination or you need massive batteries to smooth things out.
Exactly. Reverse osmosis just isn't flexible enough to deal with variable power. It's a tough fit for places without a reliable grid connection.
So if reverse osmosis isn't ideal for harnessing solar energy directly, what alternative did these MIT engineers use?
This is where electrodialysis, or ED, comes in. It uses an electric field to pull salt ions through special membranes, separating them from the water.
Interesting. So instead of pushing water, it's pulling out the salt.
You got it. And electrodialysis has some inherent advantages that make it a much better match for renewables like solar.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes it so compatible with the sun's unpredictable schedule?
First off, and this is key, ED can operate across a much wider range of power levels. It can handle those solar fluctuations way better than reverse osmosis.
So it's more adaptable to the ups and downs?
Exactly. And when it comes to brackish water, which is what we're talking about here, that sort of salty groundwater,
Right.
electrodialysis often uses less energy, which means lower costs. It's also very water efficient, producing less of that concentrated brine waste.
That's good for the environment, too.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's less waste to deal with. Plus, ED can handle water with more sediment. The membranes are tougher, resist chlorine, and can handle a broader range of pH and temperature.
Sounds pretty robust.
It is. And the lifespan of those membranes, 10, 20 years, even longer. Less maintenance, lower costs over time.
Okay, so we've got this adaptable electrodialysis as the base. How did the MIT team build on that to create a system that needs so few batteries?
Their innovation lies in directly powering the electrodialysis process with the changing output from solar panels. They created a control system that allows the entire setup to run without needing those huge battery backups or grid power.
So the system is designed to work in sync with the sunlight.
Exactly. When sunlight strengthens, the desalination speeds up. When a cloud passes, the system scales back.
Like it's dancing with the sun.
Perfectly put. And because of this rapid adjustment, it can produce a good amount of clean water, even with variable sunlight, all without storing tons of energy in batteries.
And they call this clever mechanism flow-commanded current control. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Think of it as the brains of the operation. A simple, elegant control system that doesn't need complex predictions. It constantly checks how much solar power is coming in. more power. It tells the system to increase the water flow rate through the electrodialysis unit and boost the electrical current, pulling out more salt from the faster flowing water.
So it's like the sun is setting the tempo and the system adjusts in real time.
Precisely. When solar power drops, the system instantly reduces the flow rate and the current. This constant back and forth happening super fast, 3 to 5 times a second, that's how they minimize the need for batteries.
It's almost like a conversation between the sun and the system.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And if you look at Figure 2A and 2B in their paper, you can see how they map this out, the conceptual and implemented control systems, how solar power, flow rate, and current are all connected and managed.
And this wasn't just theory, right? They built a working prototype and put it through a real-world test. Tell us about that field trial in New Mexico.
Yes. They built a community-scale prototype and tested it for 6 months in Alamogordo, New Mexico. They used real brackish groundwater from different wells with different levels of saltiness. Fresh water has very low salinity, seawater is super high, and brackish water is somewhere in between.
Making desalination a viable option.
Right. So 6 months, that's a pretty expensive trial.
It is. What did they learn?
Some really impressive results. First, the system ran completely on its own, adapting to the changing weather without any human input.
Wow, completely autonomous.
Yep. And get this, on average, the system used over 94% of the electricity produced by the solar panels. Super efficient.
That's incredible. 94%. Wow. What about the actual water production? How much clean water did they get?
Despite the weather fluctuations, the prototype consistently produced up to 5,000 liters, that's 5 cubic meters, of clean water each day. That's enough drinking water for a small community of around 3,000 people.
Really impressive. And you can see how the system performed in Figure 3. It shows a typical day, how the power use tracked the solar power, with the desalination batch times changing based on the sunlight. They even hit an overall energy utilization of 93.74% for the whole trial, which is in Figure 4C.
Yep, those figures are fantastic. They also broke down the water production rates for the different salinity levels. On the less salty well, about 1,800 microsiemens per centimeter, they got an average of 5.29 cubic meters of water per day. On the saltier well, around 4,000 microsiemens per centimeter, it was 2.18 cubic meters per day. You can see that in Figure 4E.
And what about the energy it took to produce that water?
Right, so they calculate the specific energy consumption, or SEC, basically the energy needed to make 1 cubic meter of water. On the 2 wells, it was 1.58 and 3.65 kilowatt hours per cubic meter, as shown in Figure 4. But they think they can get those numbers even lower with some tweaks to the prototype.
But the most exciting part, the real game changer, is the battery situation, right? And how much did they reduce the need for energy storage?
This is the truly remarkable bit. They essentially got rid of the need for batteries altogether. Compared to typical solar desalination, they slashed the required battery capacity by almost 100%.
100%. That's amazing.
Right. Their estimates, both conservative and from their models, were tiny. 0.038 and 0.006 kilowatt hours, respectively. And the field data, shown in Figure 5, backs this up. Their small batteries handled over 99% of the energy discharges. And if you compare their system to other solar-powered desalination systems in Figure 6, the difference is striking. The MIT system uses way less battery capacity, both in terms of its power rating and its water output. It's over 99% less than the average of those other systems.
That's a game changer for decentralized, renewable desalination. What's the potential impact here? What's next for the research team?
This has huge implications, especially for those inland communities we talked about. As one of the MIT engineers, Jonathan Bissett, pointed out, most of the world's population lives far from the coast. They depend on groundwater, which is increasingly threatened by salt.
It's a problem that's only going to get worse.
Exactly. This technology could provide affordable, sustainable, clean water to these underserved populations.
Right.
And their early cost estimates look good, even without factoring in the savings from ditching those massive batteries. They estimated the levelized cost of water for their prototype to be between $6.37 and $10.89 per cubic meter.
Which is already competitive with existing small-scale systems, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it could get even cheaper with further development and scaling up. The team is planning to do just that, test the system with larger communities. They've even started a company to bring this tech to the market.
That's great to hear. This whole concept of directly using fluctuating power for an electrochemical process, it's fascinating. What other applications do they see for this flow-commanded current control idea?
Oh, they see potential in a lot of areas. This principle of directly linking variable power to an electrochemical membrane process could be used in things like selective electrodialysis for agriculture, treating wastewater from oil and gas production, even carbon capture, and producing ultra-pure water for industries like semiconductors and healthcare. They even mentioned using it as a pre-treatment for larger reverse osmosis plants.
So the possibilities are pretty broad.
They are. Although they do point out that the effectiveness of this control strategy depends on the specific components you use, the actuators, power supply, pumps. They all need to be right for the job.
So to sum up our deep dive, it seems the MIT team has come up with a really clever approach to solar-powered desalination. Using electrodialysis and their flow-commanded current control, they've practically eliminated the need for batteries, opening up a realistic way to provide affordable clean water to communities far from the coast, especially those struggling with water scarcity.
That's a great summary. For me, the big takeaway is realizing that we don't always have to force renewables into a constant power mold with batteries. This system shows that we can harness the variability of solar power for important processes like desalination, breaking through that energy storage barrier.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture, the potential impact on global water security, especially in those regions most vulnerable to climate change and water shortages. And it begs the question, what other energy-intensive processes could benefit from similar direct drive renewable solutions? If you're interested in the nitty-gritty details, definitely check out the full paper in Nature Water. It's a fascinating look at what could be a truly revolutionary technology.
I second that. Definitely worth a read.
Thanks for joining us for this depth dive. Until next time.